You are sitting here, maybe in a familiar room, maybe beneath a single, tired street light. In that hush, another presence leans close. Jesus, gentle, patient, knows the quiver beneath your calm. His voice, soft as midnight rain, brushes your ear. I see you. Tonight, he invites you to rise from this chair, to walk beyond these walls, to breathe in a valley where light outshines fear. Wind gathers, cool at first, then hardens into hot dust. Your feet sink into the valley of Elah. Sunlight beats on ochre slopes while two armies glare across a ravine that reeks of metal and sweat. Their dread squeezes your chest until every breath is a thin whistle. Beside you stands a boy, David, skin sun-browned, shoulders still narrow, sling dangling loosely. You can almost hear the flutter in his throat. It matches your own restless pulse. Jesus' hand steadies your back. Feel his fear. He whispers, and watch what trust will birth. Across the valley, Goliath stomps forward, armor clanging like thunder, laughter battering fragile courage. Seasoned warriors shrink. You taste their shame, their secret wish to disappear. David fingers 5 stones, selecting one round as promise. He inhales slow, deliberate, and lifts his gaze beyond the giant to a sky unmoved by threats. In the breath before history pivots, you catch his confession, spoken more to his racing heart than to any crowd. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. The sentence sparks inside your lungs. Suddenly, there is space to breathe. David runs, sling whirs, stone sings. The air itself braces. Impact. The giant staggers, disbelief rippling across bronze. Earth shudders as he falls. Dust plumes upward like a broken crown. Silence cracks. Then a roar of relief floods the valley. In that surge, something shifts within you. Flashbacks. Flare. Scan results that felt like verdicts. Bills stacked like battlements. The sentence that shattered trust. Giants each yet, now their scale shrinks beneath the blazing horizon of God. The echo of stone on skull reverberates through your memories. rewriting what is possible. Breathe, Jesus murmurs. You obey, and air pours in full, undefended. Warmth spreads from his palm, loosening knots beneath your sternum. Fear collapses the lungs. He continues, but trust teaches them to widen. He names your giants not to shame you, but to show their limits. Illness, debt, abandonment, none stand taller than my promise. The light in you is not poetic. It is power. Truth settles over you like a cloak woven from sunrise. Your heartbeat steadies, each thump keeping time with hope rather than hazard. Grains of sand lift, swirling into a golden haze that stitches courage into tender places. The valley dissolves, yet the memory of stone meeting iron lingers, proof that weakness joined to trust topples towering threats. Wind gathers beneath your feet. Jesus' voice, thunder and lullaby entwined, carries as you rise. The battle is real, child, yet the outcome is mine. Keep breathing with me. You exhale long and fearless, and that breath becomes the breeze that escorts you toward another doorway, one that waits with fresh pain, but also deeper peace. The ache in your chest is quiet, but constant. It's not sharp like anger or loud like panic. It's something deeper, something that hums beneath your ribs like a forgotten bruise. You don't remember when it started, just that it's been there for a long time. Smiles come, conversations pass, but when you're alone, it rises again like smoke from a wound that never closed. You wonder if healing is only for others, for those with cleaner pasts, fewer cracks. Jesus doesn't speak at first. He just sits beside you in that dim room. You feel his nearness, the warmth of his presence, and somehow, even the silence begins to soothe. Then he leans closer and whispers, "Let me take you where the pain was healed." The air grows thick, then softens into mist. A fog swirls gently around your feet. You're no longer here, but walking through a broken city. Stone walls, chipped and gray. The cries of the forgotten echo like a chorus of old wounds. Bodies move slowly, heads bowed, limbs trembling, faces hollowed by grief and time. And then you see him, Isaiah. He stands amidst the ruins, his eyes wide, not in fear, but in deep sorrow and hope. You feel the heartbeat of his calling pounding in your own chest. He isn't shouting. He speaks like someone who's cried with the broken. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, he says, voice catching, because he has anointed me to bind up the broken-hearted. Isaiah 61:1. You look around. These people abandoned, unseen, dismissed. They are not just symbols. They are like you. Jesus places a hand on your shoulder. He spoke these words not only for his time, he says softly, but for every century that would carry pain like yours. He walks you through alleys filled with aching souls. A girl clutching a dress torn at the seams. A man with eyes that beg for forgiveness he's never received. A mother holding a child who doesn't move. You feel their pain because it mirrors your own. Jesus points toward Isaiah, who now touches a woman's shoulder with gentleness deeper than words. She weeps not because her pain is gone, but because someone finally saw it. You realize healing does not begin with being fixed. It begins with being held. You begin to cry, not loudly, not for show, but the kind of tears that come when someone names what you've carried for too long. You don't know how, but Jesus is catching everyone. His voice wraps around your weeping. Your heart is not too broken for me. The pieces you've hidden, the memories that sting, the trust that shattered, I see them all, and I'm not afraid of them. The fog begins to lift, but not all at once. That's not how pain leaves. Instead, it exhales slowly, giving space to breathe again. You look down and see a thread of gold wound gently around your chest, where the ache once throbbed. It's not gone, but it's no longer bleeding. The healing has begun. Jesus turns to you, his gaze steady and full. What Isaiah proclaimed, I fulfilled, and I'm still fulfilling it in you. He pauses, letting that settle. You are not beyond healing. You never were. You reach for his hand, and he takes it not as a stranger, but as someone who's been walking with your pain longer than you knew. The city fades behind you. The mist parts ahead. There is more to see, more to feel, but something inside you has shifted. The ache still echoes, but now it breathes, and that breath carries you forward. You've smiled when you didn't want to, nodded when everything inside you was unraveling. You've said, "I'm fine," so many times it no longer even sounds like a lie, just survival. But now, you're tired of pretending, tired of being strong, tired of covering up wounds so no one will flinch or ask questions you can't answer. Deep inside, you wonder if anyone would still love you if they saw everything. Jesus doesn't rush in. He comes quietly, like someone who's already been standing at the door, waiting for your mask to slip just enough to let him in. His eyes are kind. His hands are gentle. He lifts the invisible mask from your face, not with force, but with honor. And then he whispers, "Come." Your eyes close. A quiet settles over you, like prayer without words. The silence opens into something holy. You feel yourself being carried not away from reality, but deeper into it, into a moment where truth and grace kiss. The air changes. You're in a small synagogue, simple walls, flickering lamps casting soft shadows. Dust floats in the stillness. The townspeople of Nazareth sit quietly, their breaths held in anticipation. Then Jesus stands and takes the scroll. You recognize the words before. He speaks. They're the same Isaiah once whispered in ruins. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Luke 4:18. His voice doesn't thunder. It sinks deep, piercing, like it was meant for you, not them, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. And suddenly, it's not a synagogue anymore. You're in the center of the room, the world around you blurring. You feel exposed, but not ashamed. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. Tears rise. You hadn't realized how long you've been in chains. You'd wrapped them in busyness, in laughter, in "I'm okay." But they've been there, clinking softly in the dark, recovery of sight for the blind. You realize how much you haven't seen. Your worth, your belovedness, your story through His eyes to set the oppressed free. Something inside you breaks. But it's not the kind of breaking that destroys. It's the kind that finally lets light in. Jesus closes the scroll. Every eye is on Him. But His gaze, it's only on you. I have come for you, He says, not for your mask, not for your performance, for you, the undone, weary, beautiful soul you try so hard to hide. You stand there, unsure. Surely, He'll walk away now, right? Surely He'll look down, disappointed. But He doesn't. He stays. He stays in the silence, in the truth, in the raw places you didn't think anyone could bear to look at. And He calls them worthy. I know your exhaustion. He whispers, stepping closer. I know what it costs to keep holding it together. But you don't have to anymore. Not here, not with me. Your shoulders fall, not in defeat, but in release. You feel the weight start to lift the performance, the pressure, the need to always be enough. He reaches for your hand, and you let Him take it. You don't need to pretend to be healed in order to be loved. He says, let me love you first. The healing will come. The scroll rolls up. The room fades into soft light. But something remains. His words, wrapped around your soul like a promise. I have come for you. And as you breathe, really breathe, you realize you don't have to hide anymore. The storm isn't always outside. Sometimes it rages inside, quietly, relentlessly. 1,000 spinning thoughts, fears that refuse to sleep, conversations that replay on loop. Your heart is a sea that never rests. Some mornings, you wake up already exhausted. Some nights, you lie in bed, staring into darkness, willing your soul to just be still for once. But the storm doesn't stop. You wonder if you'll ever have peace that lasts longer than a moment. Jesus watches you, His eyes full of both authority and compassion. He doesn't minimize the chaos. He doesn't call you dramatic. He simply says, let me show you another storm. before you can respond. Wind gathers, pressing against your chest, lifting you into a different place. The air turns salty. The night wraps around you like a wet cloak. You open your eyes, and you're in a boat, tossed by waves taller than houses. Rain lashes your face. The boat creaks and groans, wooden boards straining against the sea's fury. Around you, disciples are shouting, scrambling, slipping, crying out in fear. Peter's knuckles are white around the mast. John is soaked and trembling. You see the desperation in their eyes. You feel it in your bones. Where is he? You stumble toward the stern, and there amidst the chaos, Jesus sleeps. Sleeps. It doesn't make sense, doesn't he see the danger? Doesn't he care? A scream rises, not just from them, but from something deep in you. Lord, don't you care that we are drowning? Jesus wakes, not with panic, not with urgency. He rises slowly, fully aware, fully in control. He turns toward the wind and speaks. Why are you afraid? Oh, you of little faith. Matthew 26. Then he lifts his hand and simply says, Peace. Be still. The wind stops. The waves flatten like glass. The rain ceases mid-drop. Silence. But not empty silence. Holy silence. The disciples are stunned. You are too. Your heart, which had been thundering in your chest, begins to slow. Your breath deepens. The storm around you has quieted, and the storm within you follows. Jesus turns to you, now, not the disciples, but you. He walks across the still boards and places his hand over your heart, that storm inside of you. He says gently, is not greater than me. You feel his peace not just as an idea, but as a real force, steady and warm. It doesn't mean the sea will always be calm, but it means he is always in the boat. You whisper, but what if the storm comes back? He looks you in the eye. It will. Life has many storms, but every time I am with you. You are never alone in the waves. The sea reflects the stars now. You hadn't noticed how many there were the same sky that saw your fear now shines over your stillness. You sit beside him in the boat, your hand in his. No words spoken, just breath, just peace. The wind returns, not to shake the boat, but to gently lift you again, like a hand beneath your back. It carries you from the water toward another place, another moment. But something has changed. The storm hasn't ended forever, but now you know the one who commands it, and his voice is enough. There are some wounds that don't bleed on the outside. They don't come with explanations. You can't point to the moment they happened. You just know they're there. Maybe they came from silence instead of words, from something withheld instead of something done. Maybe they come from being forgotten, overlooked, or left behind. You can't explain the ache that surfaces when everything seems fine. You only know it shows up in quiet rooms, in goodbyes that sting too much, in why tears come without warning. You've learned to function with it, to build around it. But deep down, you wish someone could see what even you can't name. Jesus sees, and he doesn't look away. His voice is soft, but sure. Even the unseen eye will heal. As soon as he speaks, you feel the water. It gathers at your feet, then rises not to drown you, but to carry you. You drift into a stream unlike any you've known. It is clear, yet deep. It hums with memory. It knows the stories that were never told. You pass through the water, and when you rise, the world has changed. You are standing among the people of Judah in exile, stripped of home, of safety, of identity. Their pain is heavy, like air soaked in sorrow. They sit in silence, faces hollow, eyes tired from too much weeping. You feel it in your chest, the ache of being forgotten, the ache of being broken for so long. You begin to wonder if wholeness was ever real. And then a voice, tender but powerful, cuts through the stillness. But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 30:17. The people look up, not all at once, but slowly, as if hope itself must first thaw. You see the flicker in their eyes, the disbelief that maybe, just maybe, they aren't abandoned. Jesus stands beside you, eyes fixed on them, their pain. He says quietly, was not hidden from me, nor is yours. You look again. The old woman in the corner, her back still bent, but her hands trembling with gratitude. A boy who hadn't smiled in days now laughs softly as his sister brushes dust from his tunic. A father holds his son as if remembering what he still has. You realize healing doesn't erase the past. It restores what was lost in it. Jesus turns toward you. There are parts of your heart you've tried to forget. He says gently, moments you buried, words you silenced, but I see them, and I'm not afraid of them. I do not call them shameful. I call them healable. You try to answer, but the tears come first, slow, steady, not of despair, but of release. One slides down your cheek, and Jesus catches it with his fingertip. This tear, he says, belongs to a wound long ignored, but today it begins to breathe. The water around your feet stirs again, not forcefully, but like a stream, ready to carry you forward. You glance once more at the people of Judah. They are rising, not fully healed yet, but restored enough to believe again. Jesus reaches for your hand, your wounds. He says, even the ones without names, they are not forgotten. You breathe deeply, and for the first time in a long time, you feel something shift. Not everything is fixed, but something is being touched, seen, tended to. And that is enough for now. The stream swells gently, lifting you again. The water holds you like a lullaby as it begins to carry you to the next place. A new door waits, but now you carry with you something precious, hope for wounds you can't name, but he can. You've failed, not just once, over and over again. You've promised to do better, only to fall back into the same patterns. You've wept in private, beaten yourself up in silence, and wondered if there's a point where grace just runs out. There are parts of your story you don't tell anyone, because you assume if they knew, they'd walk away, maybe even God. You whisper things like, "I should have known better by now," or "I'm too far gone." The shame sticks. The guilt lingers like smoke in your lungs. You don't need to be reminded that you've failed. You already carry it everywhere you go. Jesus doesn't deny any of it. He knows all of it. And still, he looks at you not with disappointment, but with mercy that burst through the lies you've believed. "Come," he says, and his eyes hold no trace of rejection. "Let me take you to Paul." Suddenly, you're surrounded by silence, not cold, not empty, holy, the kind of silence that knows pain and doesn't try to fix it too fast. And then Paul's voice, strong but not proud, weary but steady. "3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me." You don't know exactly what it is, the thorn, the weakness, but you feel it. You feel the heaviness in his spirit, the frustration of asking God over and over to remove something that won't go away, the quiet despair of not understanding why. You understand it too well. And then comes the words that seem to echo straight into the wound you carry. "But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness.'" 2 Corinthians 12:9. Jesus draws near, the corners of his mouth soft with something deeper than sympathy understanding. You watch Paul's face. You see no bitterness. You see freedom, not because the thorn is gone, but because something greater has taken root. "I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses," Paul continues, "so that Christ's power may rest on me." You breathe that in. Weakness is not disqualification. It's invitation. Jesus turns to you. And this time, it feels like the weight in your chest begins to lift. Even before he speaks, "Your failure," he says gently, "is not the end of your story." You look at him, unsure. "But I knew better, and I knew you," he says, "even when you fell, especially then. You want to hide, but something in his presence makes it impossible. His gaze doesn't allow for masks or shame, only honesty. My grace he says again, this time pressing his hand over your heart, is sufficient. Still, always. You feel it then, not just in your mind, but in your soul. Grace isn't for the perfect. It's for this, for the failure, for the trying again, for the thorn that hasn't left, and the heart that still beats. The silence returns, but now it feels like rest. You're not fixed, but you're no longer condemned. You're held, seen, strengthened. You glance toward Paul, who fades slowly into light. And Jesus, he stays, of course, still holding your hand. We keep walking, he says, not because you haven't fallen, but because I've already lifted you. You nod, barely speaking, but fully believing. You don't know what waits ahead, but you walk forward, not perfect, not polished, but forgiven, and that's more than enough. You've stopped hoping, not out of rebellion, but out of protection too many times. You believed, and it didn't turn out the way you prayed. You hoped for healing, but the diagnosis stayed. You hoped for reconciliation, but the door slammed shut. You hoped for change, but the same cycle circled back again. So now, you keep your expectations low, safer that way, less painful. But in quiet moments, you miss it, that fragile, golden thread that once tugged your heart forward. You miss the taste of what it felt like to believe something good could still come. Jesus doesn't scold you for giving up. He just draws near. No pressure, just presence. Then he gently takes your hand in his. His touch is warm, like morning light on a weary face. Child, he says softly, come see. A sound begins to rise around you. Not music as you know it, but something older, ancient hymns, carried by the wind, sung in a language your heart somehow understands. The melodies swirl and wrap around you like arms. They carry you upward until the world shifts again. You are standing in a dimly lit room, stone walls lined with parchment. The scent of oil lamps and ink fills the air. You hear the scratching of a quill, and then a pause. Paul is here again, older now, weathered. His hands are marked from chains, his eyes lined with grief but also something stronger, joy. You feel it pulsing through the air, mingled with tears not yet shed. He breathes in deeply and writes with deliberate care, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him." Romans 15:13. The words glow, not with magic, but with truth. Jesus leans close. He wrote that from a place of pain. He says, from prison, from a life marked by suffering, but hope still lived in him. You watch Paul pause, his hand trembling just slightly, then continue, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. You feel it then a stirring, small, like the faintest ember in a long dead fire. But it's there. Hope. Jesus turns to you, his voice a whisper of strength. Hope is not a gamble. It's not wishful thinking. It's trust in me that I am not done yet, that your story is not over. You glance again at Paul, who closes his eyes as if praying the words he just wrote would echo beyond time. You realize they weren't just for the Roman believers. They were for you. You, who stopped hoping because it hurt too much. You, who wondered if silence meant abandonment. You, who forgot that hope doesn't start in results, it starts in me. Jesus says, "I am the God of hope." He repeats, not vague, not distant, real, alive, near. The room fades, but the sound of that ancient hymn continues. You realize it's not just around you. It's in you now. A quiet song building again in the places that once felt empty. You place a hand over your chest. There's something flickering there, not yet roaring, but alive. Jesus smiles. It's okay to hope again, he says, not because everything will be easy, but because I am with you in it, and I finish what I start. The hymn swells, carrying you forward. The air shifts to morning light. You're not back where you began. You're further now. You don't know what tomorrow holds, but for the first time in a long while, you hope. And that hope begins to lead you into the dawn. You don't know how you got here, but you know it's dark. Not the kind of dark that comes when you close your eyes. This one lingers even when they're wide open. You've lost your sense of direction, purpose, maybe even the will to keep trying. The questions echo louder than any answers. What's the point? Why keep walking? Will the light ever come back? You haven't given up, not fully, but you've gone quiet inside. It feels safer than hoping for something you can't see. Jesus is still with you, and he doesn't push you to move. He just sits in the dark beside you, present, patient. Then he whispers, "Let me show you someone who couldn't see." In an instant, you are drawn through the silence, past noise, past memory, into a different time. A dusty street. The sun is warm above, but the man in front of you feels none of its light. His eyes are open, but he sees nothing. He was born blind. He never knew light at all. You feel his stillness, the ache in his soul. He's used to being dismissed, ignored, blamed. People assume his condition is punishment. He's heard it all. Who sinned, they ask. Then you hear another voice. Jesus' voice, steady and tender. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so the works of God might be displayed in him. John 9:3. You feel the air shift. Something is about to happen. Jesus kneels, spits on the ground, makes mud with his hands, and gently places it over the blind man's eyes. Go, he says, wash in the pool of Siloam. And the man goes. You feel his hesitation, his confusion, still blind, still unsure, but he walks, step by step, every step a choice to trust. Then he washes, and light, for the first time ever, he sees color, sky, faces, his own reflection. You fall to your knees, not just because of the miracle, but because you know what it means. You may not see the road ahead. You may feel swallowed by confusion, or sorrow, or fear. But Jesus is not waiting for you to find your way out. He is already in the dark with you, forming healing from the dust. He kneels beside you now. You feel his hand on your face, lifting your chin. When you can't see the way, he says, I will lead you. You don't have to know the destination. You only need to trust the one who does. Jesus doesn't promise instant clarity, but he promises his hand, his presence, and his light when the time is right. And somehow, that's enough. You stand slowly. The darkness hasn't fully lifted, but something new rises inside you. Trust. Because maybe sight isn't about seeing the whole picture. Maybe it's about seeing him. He takes your hand. His grip is firm, gentle, safe together. You walk forward through the shadows toward the light, and each step becomes a testimony, even in the dark. I am not alone, even in blindness. I am led. You've run out, not just of energy or time, but of yourself. The love you once poured so easily now feels distant. The joy that used to sparkle like sunlight now feels muted. Even your prayers have gone quiet. You're dry. No one sees it. Not really. On the outside, you function. You nod. You show up. But inside, something vital feels gone. Cracked earth where there once was spring. And honestly, you've started to wonder, is this it now? Have I become a desert inside? Jesus doesn't rush your ache. He doesn't urge you to perform joy. Instead, he steps beside you and whispers, "Come, let me take you to the river." The air around you shifts, no longer still. You smell water before you see it, sweet and ancient, mixed with dust and stone. You blink, and suddenly you're beside a temple. You're not alone. Ezekiel stands nearby, his eyes wide in awe. You follow his gaze. Water trickles from beneath the threshold of the temple. Not a torrent, not yet. Just a slow, glistening stream. But you sense it. This water is alive. It's not ordinary. It pulses with the breath of God. You and Ezekiel walk with it, step by step. The stream deepens from your ankles to your knees, then your waist, and finally, it becomes a river that cannot be crossed. Too deep, too wide. And wherever this river flows, life follows. You see it trees on both banks, leaves rustling with healing. You see fish, swarms of them, teeming in waters that had once been dead. Then Ezekiel's words echo. not just in your ears, but in your soul. Wherever the river flows, everything will live. Ezekiel 47:9. You close your eyes. You don't feel life right now. You feel hollow, parched, empty. But Jesus is with you. You feel his hand press lightly over your chest. You may feel dry, he says, but my spirit still flows. It's not a reprimand, it's a reminder. The drought inside you does not have the final word. You look again at the river, and something within you starts to respond, not in loud revival, but in slow, sacred receiving. You open your hands, no words, just need, and that's enough. The water begins to touch you, not on the outside, but inside. Not fast, not flashy, but steady. You feel it moving in the places you thought were gone forever. Through the silence in your heart, through the cracks in your soul, through the brittle places no one else sees. The river flows there too. Jesus kneels beside you at the water's edge. He doesn't ask for effort. Just trust. Let me do the pouring. He says, you don't need to force the flood. Just stay near the source. You breathe that in. It's not your striving that brings life. It's his spirit, his stream, his unrelenting grace. The river carries you not away from the hard things, but through them. And slowly, what was dry begins to soften. What was silent begins to stir. What was dead begins to breathe. You realize now, dryness isn't the end. It's the invitation to return to the river, to drink again, to be filled. The stream continues to flow, not just beside you, but within you. You are not a desert. You are soil, waiting for rain. And now, the rain has come. You're thirsty, but not for water. It's a thirst that nothing in this world can touch. You've tried to fill it with noise, with success, even with good things, relationships, accomplishments, blessings, but everything feels strangely empty now. You get what you thought you wanted, and still there's a hollow echo inside. It's like standing in a room full of light and still longing for the sun. You wonder if something's wrong with you. Why doesn't this feel like enough? Why do you keep waking up with this ache behind your ribs? Jesus is near. He doesn't offer quick fixes or empty advice. Instead, he simply says, "Come to the end and begin again." You feel the shift, a wind not of this world. Then the stars open before you, wide, brilliant, eternal. A door of light and fire pulls you through. You're no longer in time as you know it. You're standing at the edge of forever. The book of Revelation opens before you, not in fear, but in glory. And there, standing above everything else, is Jesus. You see him in all his majesty eyes, like fire, voice like rushing waters. Not the suffering servant now, but the risen King. He speaks with a power that shakes the very air around you. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Revelation 26. Then his tone softens, still mighty, but personal. To the thirsty, I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. You feel it like a gravitational pull toward him. This is what you've been aching for. Not achievement, not comfort, not even clarity. You've been aching for eternity. And now you see it. That ache was never a flaw. It was a compass, a signal that you were made for something beyond this fading world. Jesus draws closer. You are not forgotten, he says, and the words land deeper than anything you've ever heard. I have prepared something eternal for you. You look around and see it, not just golden streets or jeweled gates, but the presence of God himself, unfiltered, unhindered, light without shadow, joy without pain, love without fear. And you understand this world was never meant to quench your thirst. It was only meant to lead you to the one who can. That longing in your soul, it's not something to fix or suppress. It's something to follow. Jesus places his hand over your heart. The ache doesn't vanish, but it transforms from gnawing emptiness into holy hunger, from restless chasing into deep longing. And with longing comes peace, because you know now that the thirst itself is part of the gift, a reminder that your soul is eternal, that nothing here will ever satisfy like He will. You still walk the earth. You still face the days, but your eyes are different now, looking forward, looking home. And in that looking, your thirst finds rest. It clings to you, quiet but heavy. You smile when needed. You move forward, mostly. But deep down, you know what you've done. Maybe no one else remembers. Maybe no one else knows. But you do. You carry guilt like a chain. Rusted, cold, unyielding. You've tried to shake it. You've confessed. You've cried. But the weight remains, and it whispers things in the dark. You're unworthy. You're stained. You can't go back. Jesus stands near, not accusing, not shaming, just present. He reaches out, not to scold, but to lift. Let me show you the cross. He says, you barely nod. Through your own tears, you are drawn not away from your guilt, but deeper into it. And then, through it, the scene unfolds slowly. You arrive at Calvary. The hill is brutal. The sky hangs heavy. And there He is, Jesus, broken, bleeding, hanging between two criminals. The crowd mocks. The soldiers gamble. The sky darkens, and He remains. You take it in, the nails, the thorns, the blood. He meets your eyes. Yes, your eyes, and does not look away. There is no flinch, no condemnation, just love, fierce, focused, unshakable. I have carried what you cannot. He says, you fall to your knees. The chain of guilt still tight around your soul, but you can't hold it anymore. You whisper, barely audibly, I'm sorry. And then He dies, not in defeat, but in victory. You watch as the sky splits, the earth shakes, and the veil is torn. It's not just history, it's your story. Your sin paid for, your shame absorbed, your guilt buried in His wounds. You collapse not from despair, but from relief too deep for words. And there, at the foot of the cross, He wraps you in peace. You feel it, gentle, sure, warm, not earned, not performed, just forgiven. Forgiveness isn't a concept. It's a person. And he has scars. You reach out to touch them. He lets you. They don't accuse. They whisper grace. They say, "You are not what you've done. You are what I've done for you." And in that moment, the chain slips off, not because you deserve it, but because he already wore it and broke it. You stand slowly, lighter, new. Your past hasn't vanished, but it's no longer your prison. He takes your hand. You begin to walk again, not in shame, but in freedom. Not in fear, but in forgiveness. You are carried home, not by your own effort, but by his mercy. And every scar on his body is a doorway back to grace. You're weary, but you don't know how to stop. Even when your body pauses, your mind keeps running. There's always something left to fix, something to prove, something that could fall apart if you let go. You want peace, but rest feels risky, as if stopping means surrendering control, as if letting go will make everything unravel. But something in you is fraying. You're worn thin. Your heart, your thoughts always on edge, even in quiet moments. The fight hasn't stopped. Not really. It's just moved inside. And then Jesus stands before you. He doesn't shout to get your attention. He doesn't need to. His presence is steady, certain, calm. He places a hand over your chest, where the storm still brews, looks you straight in the eye. Child, stop here. Rest in me. You want to say you can't. You want to explain all the reasons, but the words die on your tongue because suddenly you're not in your room anymore. You're in a garden, still, early, holy. It's the third day. The tomb is open, empty. Light pours from the stone threshold. He is not there. He has risen. The garden hums with resurrection, not just in the air, but in your soul. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of everything new. And then you hear his voice again, closer now. Not loud, not urgent, just truth, wrapped in tenderness. I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. John 16:33. You let the words wash over you. In me, peace, not in your performance, not in having all the answers, not in fixing everything, just in Him. You close your eyes for the first time in what feels like forever. You exhale, not because everything's been solved, but because you're no longer carrying it alone. The garden is quiet, but inside you, something powerful shifts. The war that's been raging between control and surrender, fear and trust begins to go still. Not because the problems disappeared, but because Jesus has not. He is alive, and that changes everything. You sit with Him in the garden. You don't rush. You don't explain. You simply breathe. You feel the peace. He spoke of deep, not shallow, solid, not temporary, like the earth beneath your feet and the sky above your head. It holds you. Rest isn't weakness. It's worship. Letting go isn't failure. It's faith. You look around one more time. The tomb remains empty. The light is rising. And from this place of quiet, of peace, of surrender, the journey begins anew. You won't walk it alone. And this time, you'll walk it rested,